Well, Jim Morrison once said, "The West is the best." And, actually, if you tell you by where the elite are moving to, it would seem to be confirmed again. That's one thing that the alternative media doesn't really tell you too much about. I mean, they always tell you, oh, the BRIC nations are doing better, the West is falling apart, and all this type of stuff. And you just hear this endlessly from them, but I just got to quote that old saying from Jim Morrison, "The West is the best." And where are the elite moving to? Actually, I'm giving you a great hint here right in this pictorial. The UK, United Kingdom, that's where they're moving to by far in the greatest numbers. Actually, almost even in percentage-wise. Numbers-wise, they gained quite a bit in the UK. Over twice as much ultra wealthy have moved to the UK than the second most popular place to move to for the ultra wealthy in the world. Its second most popular place to move to would be Singapore. A little higher percentage net gain in the ultra wealthy in Singapore, but less than half as many have actually moved to Singapore, and almost equal to the Singapore in numbers, in raw numbers, is the United States of America, followed by Australia and Hong Kong and Canada. So what does that tell you? Is the West freaking on its ropes? It doesn't seem to be that way, but now let me tell you where they're moving out of. Where they're moving out of actually is number one, China. The ultra wealthy are moving out of China. See, this is one beef I had with what Jim Rogers was talked about. He thinks China is going to be the number one economic power for the next 100 years, even though they're having problems right now. That may very well be true if the communist regime is overthrown in China. Then I would believe it. But then again, if in the United States the communist regime was overthrown through, we got rid of the Republican and Democratic parties and we had laissez-faire capitalism and got rid of our communist socialist ways, we would probably have a new awakening here in the USA. Actually, what the best deal would be to have is a new awakening everywhere across the world. But where the ultra wealthy are moving out of is China, number one. Number two, India. And actually a higher percentage of Indian ultra wealthy are moving out of that country, but raw numbers wise, it's probably about half as many in China that are moving in India that are moving out than in China, followed by France. Now France has actually got a lot of editorials you could see in their newspapers and media, harping against the ultra wealthy, and if the guy. They got so much taxation in France, it's ridiculous that ultra wealthy are leaving. That's a shame, man, because I like France. I think France and Italy. Actually, that's the next two countries, France and Italy. I like France and Italy. They're moving out, and followed by Russia. Russia, and actually a lot of people are moving out of Russia too, because you see what's going on in the balance of trade in Russia. With the commodity prices actually taking a major hit, and Putin actually tightening the ropes all around him on the oligarchs as much as he possibly can to retain his power. A lot of people just moving the hell out of Russia. Actually, since Putin invaded Ukraine, a lot of the ultra wealthy have decided to just pack up and head on out. That's really what happened. There was actually quite a bit of mass exodus out of Russia, but where the mass exodus of the ultra wealthy predominantly is coming out of is China and also India. India as a percentage, but in raw numbers, China leads the charge out. So that's one thing I could talk about with Jim Rogers. He talks about Indonesia being a place, or Singapore. He's in Singapore, but Singapore is one of the places where they're going to. It's the number two spot, right after the United Kingdom, and United States is just about as popular as Singapore for the place to go to for the ultra wealthy. So, despite us having all these problems, I guess I guess, relatively speaking, when you put the balance in perspective, you can see what's going on. So, as the alternative media drinks from the Kool-Aid and want to delude themselves that the West is the absolute most evil place to be in the world, now, do I say there's not problems coming up in the West that we need to resolve, and we need to fix problems that have occurred in the past and have been entrenched rackets, and we have crony capitalism, we got, problems in D.C. where congressmen have inside information. Yeah, I know this. I know the Federal Reserve needs to be, not just audited, but put through the shredder. It's more than that. But to drink from the Kool-Aid and say that the problems in the West are far more severe than the problems elsewhere is ludicrous. Ludicrous, because actually this tells you, the ultra-wealthy aren't stupid. They're not they're not going to a place that is going to make it worse for themselves. They're going into a place that's good for business. And, for instance, if China, China's doing great. China's got a lot of freaking strong entrepreneurial spirit. The problem is, really what's wrecking China is the Communist Party. Oh, it's not the Chinese people. It's even like with Russia. Why are people moving out of Russia? It's the freaking oligarchs. Actually, if you look at it, that's really why drink is such a popular thing in Russia, because it's almost hopeless in some situations. But I don't want to knock the country. Not in the least. I actually want to say this because, I put a lot of anti-Putin stuff out here sometimes. But I'm going to tell you this. I know there's a major beef where people in Moscow, they look at the financial sector and they see it's all empty, and they're saying to themselves, the only people who are actually in the financial sector of Moscow, they're not even driving Russian cars. They're driving Mercedes. They're driving, foreign cars. They're driving all foreign cars. They're not even driving Russian cars. And, I actually agree with what they're saying there, because that pisses me off when I see the professionals down here in the United States doing the same type of thing, where they're driving foreign cars and they're telling the USA to go to hell. Where they made their money, right? So let me tell you this, that, the problems throughout the world are pretty much the same. And the peoples in every respective country who have national pride are running into the same kind of garbage with the elitists. But, when it comes down to it, hands down, the winner, the absolute winner, where the ultra-wealthy are moving to, is the United Kingdom. No doubt. By far. Followed by second and third, which is a very tight race, Singapore, then the U.S., then Australia, then Hong Kong, then Canada. And you have to remember, Australia, Hong Kong, and Canada are probably doing quite well for competition for the ultra-wealthy, because the population of the U.S. is quite large compared to those other countries. And we also, the U.S. does have the world's greatest amount of ultra-wealthy as it is. But, it tells you a lot about the U.K. too, because if the world was so bad on the western side, you would not see people running out of China and India and some of these BRICS nations and going to the West. Now, the only place in the West where they're running out of is France and Italy. And unfortunately, France does have a little bit too much well, they got a very high corporate tax over there. They do. They have a very high corporate tax. I don't even want to say a damn thing bad about France, because I think I like France. Especially the Tour de France, man. Bicycles, you know what I mean? Bicycles. But and hot chicks on bicycles too, not just guys, man. I like the ladies on the bicycles. But with the derriere, going around pedaling their butts off, and with a little French loaf of bread for fuel and some booze in the water bottles. But I can't really. I don't want to say much against France. And it's warm enough to freaking pedal around there. Maybe Russia's cool too, but I mean, it's like. I don't know. That's where the ultra elite are moving out of. So it's telling you what's going on. I mean, they're moving out of China, especially in India. You know, and Jim Rogers is telling you that, oh, that's the place to be. But he doesn't live in China. He lives in Singapore, which is the number 2 spot and actually the number 1 spot as far as percentage gains of the ultra wealthy. Percentage gains as percentage gain of how many more ultra wealthy are moving into Singapore versus the population of ultra wealthy that are already there. Actually, that would put Singapore would be number 1. But that still, Great Britain would be way the hell up there with, a 14% increase of the ultra wealthy population in 10 years. So from 2003 to 2013. So actually, this is not even over a 1-year period. This is over a 10-year period. So it's a pretty damn good indication of what's going on. We're talking about 2003 to 2013. Now, the numbers coming out of Russia are probably going to be a hell of a lot worse for moving out, because since 2013 is when we've had the problem with the Ukraine, and a lot more Russians started moving out of there. And I don't want to knock Russia per se, but I'm just telling you, man. The people that are these are the people. This is a good pictorial of the people that are actually telling you the West is the worst, and that these other the other countries in the other side of the world are the best. They're really high on something, because they're sitting in here and they're just making lots of money telling you about the downfall of the West, dramatizing things, getting the giddy minds to click on their advertisements or whatever the hell it is. That's what they're doing. And that is why on this channel I do not put out strictly these kind of videos, because I want to put out a lot more hands-on how-to videos, the type of things those other people would never do in a million years. Because why? They will not get their hands dirty. They will not crawl under a car. They will not freaking do physical labor. They just talk. So enough talk. Just want to tell you, though, the facts are, it seems like, it's not even it seems, the facts are, over the last 10 years, the money, the ultra wealthy have been going into Great Britain, Singapore, United States, Australia, Hong Kong, and Canada. That's where they're going. Is that because these are the worst places in the world? Hell no. Hell no. I just gotta leave you with that thought. Hell no.